looking at the African diaspora today, we are more than 500 million people. In our soul, in our mind, where is Marcus Garvey? I mean, that spirit, do you see it reflected in the life that we live? Because there are some movement here and there among African diaspora, many of them thinking of how to contribute to Africa. But do they have that mindset that Marcus Garvey was talking about?
That's a question of the time. That's a question of the time. That's the $1 million question. Like I said, we don't, those of us who are progressive, we don't have the resources in terms of the financial resources. But our resource, the most important resource we must have is integrity. Integrity has to become our currency. So I can call you and say, I need this done. And without money, we try to make sure that it is done. If there is money, yes, but money cannot be the determining factor in what is done amongst us. So if we can, again, I cannot emphasize the importance of having a network. The same thing like Harriet Tubman, you have an underground network, underground railroad. Today, we don't necessarily have to be underground, but in some matters, obviously, we still have to be underground because no one never lets anyone knows exactly what they are thinking, what they will be planning. But on the surface, we have to have a network of organizations and institutions that can get things done. Just now you were speaking about the no-fly zone. Gaddafi in Africa was about to bring about the second revolution. The first revolution was about our political independence. But when we understand the economic independence and of a United States of Africa with our own finance, our own gold, like you said, it is ups. Oh man. For someone to bring paper dollar and take away your gold, to take away your diamonds, to take away your coltan for a piece of paper that has no value. But when we remove those people artificial currencies of trade and we replace them with something of substance, then we become a danger to the whole economic structure. So it was necessary for them to take out Gaddafi under whatever pretenses. And most African leaders, if we see historically, from the time they start speaking about replacing the dollar, regardless if it's the French or the English or the American, Europe, they becomes an international threat. But we have to, and this right now, this conversation is very, very deep and Obehi. Um, the sad truth about is that there are not many African heads of state who are willing to embark upon that revolutionary journey. They have the resources, they have the word song, the voice, but in terms of bringing about that kind of total revolution to replace this archaic capitalist system that could never be a model for our development. It can never be. We have to replace it. But who is really willing to go the 10 miles to make sure that it is done? So therefore, we have to seek and find if there are few African leaders who are genuinely interested and the system with them so that internationally we have an organization just as the Marcus Garvey was putting forward. We have to, like I said, work in a very conscious manner in identifying because every soldier has a footprint, a historical roadmap that he or she, they, or as an institution has traveled. And it is that footprint we have to look at in terms of forming the necessary structure, global structure for the advancement of Africans. And that to me is the only hope. Yes, in our individual spaces, we have to continue working, planning, organization, and giving the people tangible substances, because sometimes we become too intellectual, and if we become too intellectual, then the people cannot see how the dread of their day-to-day lives will be improved by Pan-Africanism. So Pan-Africanism has to transfer tangible goods as to how nurseries, schools, employment, a new socialization, whatever it is that we have to be able to transfer onto the people so the people can see the benefits to their lives. On the ground level, on the national level, but on the international level, then we work towards forming that international structure of representation, of power, of economics, politics, and defense.
Before I did say that we were going to talk about the relationship, but it is very important. So I want you to speak to what kind of relationship do we have today between the African diaspora and the Africa at home?
Barbados within the Caribbean is very progressive. We have a very progressive Prime Minister, the Honorable Mia Amor Motley, and she is building ties, South to South relationship. She has been very instrumental in the first South to South Heads of State um, conference. It was held either last year or a year before, and they have pledged to repeat it every year, whereby embassies, businesses, cultural exchanges will be more part of our everyday lives. Um, in terms of a structured program for reconnecting the South, the nations of the South. So hence, the Caribbean will be having more trade, economic, cultural relationships with Africa. We have opened up 3 embassies, I think it is, in Ghana and 2 other places, which I can't remember offhand right now. But that is part of the government to government. We on the ground now, we have to keep lighting the fire, because the government will not do things except the people are pushing them to do the things, especially things that might not seem to be too traditional and too right or breaking from the colonial era. So we on the ground, we have to efficiently organize so that we become a force to be recognized and to be negotiated with in order to ensure that the roadmap that has been set by the state is continued, and continued not only to improve the financial standards of the larger companies, but also to improve the regular everyday lives of the people on the ground. And this is very important in establishing trade, etc. We have to be mindful that we are not opening up Africa to be exploited by a petty bourgeois or a bourgeois class of people, because then we are just reinventing the Berlin Conference under the disguise of South to South trading relationship. We have to ensure that the people on the ground level are the ones who are mostly being elevated through contacts and through the improvements of their lives within that. So we on the ground in Ghana this year, 2022, there will be a conference on Marcus Garvey on culminating on the 17th. So brethren from Jamaica and Canada and United States within the diaspora will be making a contribution towards that conference on the 17th of August. In Jamaica, there will be a lot of celebrations around Marcus Garvey's birthday as well. So we were initially trying to do a direct flight because, as you know, without direct flight, the communications and the trade and the movementation and the urgency of ideas manifesting into realistic programs without a direct flight, it is greatly hampered. We do not need to go to the States or to Europe to go to Mama Africa. When if we fly directly, it is 8 hours from the Caribbean, or 6 or 7, depends on where you're going from. So a memorandum of understanding has just been established between Ghana and Barbados, exploring direct flights. So these are the things that is on the table. But like I said, my brother, we on the ground, on the grassroots level, have to keep lighting the fire so that the integrity of the vision remains as true as possible.